Kanda, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 in Wa and beyond. Also streaming all across the world on 3news.com. You can also watch us on Facebook at 3FM927, also on X at 3FM927. I am Alfred Ocansey. This evening, Accra High Court sentences 6 people to death by hanging for conspiracy to commit high treason and committing high treason. Meanwhile, 3 others, including ACP Agozo, have been acquitted. We'll tell you the latest in court earlier today here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We have some lawyers also joining us on this particular conversation. This evening, the National Labour Commission instructs striking members of the Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana, the Federation of University Senior Staff, and the Teachers and Educational Workers Union to call off their strike before negotiations will begin on the issues that they have raised. We'll tell you whether that is one that these unions would heed to. Also, the Upper East Regional Security Council is meeting over the Boko disturbances in recent days gone by. We have details of that for you shortly here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Now, the hunt for the next Black Stars coach begins in earnest. We have these and more with business and entertainment coming up over the next 60 minutes. I am Alfred Ocansey. Welcome. Let's get into the details now. Now, 6 persons, including 3 soldiers, have been sentenced to death by hanging for high treason by the Accra High Court for plotting to overthrow the government. Now, a number of you have been following this story quite closely over the years. These 3 soldiers, Warrant Officer 3, Esther San Dukweni, and Lance Corporal Ali Solomon and Corporal Sylvester Akampeon, were found guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason. However, what we're learning as well is that 2 senior security officers and another soldier were not found guilty and were subsequently acquitted by the 3-member panel of the court. They were Colonel Samuel Kojo Gameli and the Assistant Commissioner of Police, ACP Dr. Benjamin Agozo, were also found not guilty of abetment to commit high treason, while Corporal Saidu Abubakar was also found not guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason and treason. Now, so if you're just joining us, that is the development in court today. Now, 6 persons, including the 3 soldiers, have been sentenced to death by hanging for high treason by the Accra High Court for plotting to overthrow the government. These 6 persons, we're talking about Donya Kafui, aka Ezo, a blacksmith, and Bright Alan Deborah Ofosu, a fleet manager, were found guilty of conspiracy to commit treason and treason, while Johannes Zigby, a civilian employee of the Ghana Armed Forces, was found guilty of the conspiracy to commit high treason. So that is a development in court earlier today. And we're going to hear from the Attorney General and Minister of Justice on this matter, and then also the developments so far. Quickly, let's hear from as well ACP Benjamin Agozo, who was one of 3 persons who were not found guilty of abetment to commit a high treason earlier today, and they have been discharged by the courts. This is what he had to say after today's hearing.
Jehovah is your name.
5 years after being accused, the acquittal comes in.
It is joy. We give glory to God. He alone has made it. You heard the judgment, and you saw all the rebuttals. I don't need to talk again. They knew it was falsehood, but they continued to perpetrate it and push it hard. It didn't work. Our God doesn't fail. Now you want to ask what action next? Don't worry. I'll talk to my lawyers and then we'll talk to the media at the appropriate time. So thank you very much.
How does it feel to be free after 5 years?
Well, I've always been free within my heart. I've always been free because I knew how it was going to end. From the beginning, I knew that is how it's going to end today. I didn't know when it was going to end, but I knew how it was going to end. It's like watching a movie, a replay with somebody. You know the end, but the person doesn't know. So you people didn't know the end. I knew the end.
So you're confident right from the
I
beginning?
was so confident.
Have you been contemplating yourself or imagining yourself back in your police uniform?
Well, I don't want to comment about that. Okay. I don't want to comment about that.
Thank you very much.
So that's ACP Benjamin Agozo there. Now, after that ruling today, acquitting and discharging him of any crime of high treason, for that matter, together with Corporal Saidu Abubakar, who was also found not guilty of conspiracy to commit high treason and treason. You heard them singing, and also harmony and victory there. The Attorney General, Godfrey Yeboah Dame, was in court earlier today. This is what he had to say as well after the ruling.
Called for the relatively expeditious manner in which the trials were conducted. We must also pay compliment to the Ghana forces of military command, especially the defense intelligence, who picked up the right signals and cleverly monitored them and indeed gathered the evidence. Otherwise, I'm sure Ghana perhaps would have been disarrayed by now.
Aside the person of Dr. McPalm, the ACP Benjamin Agojo and Colonel Gameli were the names that hit the media.
Well, so that's the Attorney General, Godfrey Yeboah Dame. My colleague was a court correspondent, Lord Edwasari, sat through the entire hearing in court today, and eventually that judgment, in fact, that particular pronouncement by the courts earlier today, now is with me in the studio. Lord, this is what we're reading, but you sat through the entire proceedings in court today. Now, tell me, what was the reaction of the three? We've only heard from ACP Benjamin Agozo, but the other two, when the judges made their pronouncements, acquitting and discharging them of this crime of treason.
Well, so Alfred, it was quite intense, I must say. So while the judgment was being read, the judgment was about a 3.5 hour read, Alfred. And during this
Took 3.5 hours.
Yes.
The judges to read this sentence.
I'm telling you, it was very, very detailed, right? And when they were reading they took it one after the other. They took from the A2, then right to A10, who was ACP Benjamin Agojo.
You mean the accused?
The accused persons.
Okay.
Now either discharged or convicted. Yes. Now for Agojo, we've heard him, but then there was also Lance Corporal Saidu Abubakar. When he's the 7th accused person, when his judgment was being read, Alfred, he was sitting down, literally shaking, sweating, and praying. Could see this man, he had clasped his hands together, he was praying, he didn't care about anything. His eyes were closed and he was praying. And once it was over that he had been acquitted from the abetment to commit high treason, he just put his head down. He even wanted to bow down, like go down on his knees, right? And you could see the relief in his face. It was very, very intense. He was just shedding tears, buried his face in his hands, and he was just shaking and crying. The direct opposite, though, was Colonel Samuel Kojo Gameli. Now, I haven't seen anybody as composed as he was.
Even in the midst of the uncertainty of what was going to be happening that particular minute.
Great. So during the entire reading, right, every single one of the accused persons were either shaking, fidgeting, wiping themselves, or gazing. Colonel Gameli was just seated there, unflinched, not moving. One point, you just see him, he put his folded his arms, but no emotion whatsoever. Right from when the judgment was read to the end, and he was pronounced as acquitted. No emotion whatsoever.
That was a sign of, would you say, confidence that indeed he knew he had done nothing wrong, and that really the judgment was not going to implicate him in any way.
You could say that. You could say that because afterwards I actually spoke to him, right, and he said that I asked him how he was so composed. And I was like, he's been a military person for a long time. There have been instances where he's come face to face with deadlier situations, and he's been taught to compose himself in high tense situations like that, and of course with the background that he knew he hadn't done anything, so there was no way that he was going to panic and whatnot. So these were the situations of ACP Benjamin Agojo, Colonel Kojo Gameli and Lance Corporal Seydou Abubakar Alfred.
Now, talk about ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo. Let me just put on record as well. He was a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Yes, a number of things that he has been doing over the period. Lawyer Martin Pebble was his lawyer,
Indeed.
Correct?
Indeed.
And let's hear from Martin Pebble after this court, that's the judge's pronouncement. You spoke to him afterwards. Let's hear from him.
The mouth of the Attorney General to say that it doesn't lie in his mouth. When he was in opposition as part of AFAD, he wanted to go on a demonstration. President Mills had to step in. The police stopped them. President Mills had to step in to say he has a right to demonstrate. So why won't there's a police officer? He didn't say he was going to demonstrate himself. He was just teaching, or let's say giving advice to intended demonstrators on following the law, following due process, that they should apply to inform the police. You know, under the Public Order Act, you have to inform the police 5 days ahead, etc. All those things, right? Yes, so that was all that Agojo sought to do. Yes, that was all that he sought to do.
I mean,
So that's Martin Pebble, private legal practitioner and a friend of this platform here on 3FM 92.7. And indeed, we're working on the telephone lines to get through to him. But just give us a background to what Martin Pebble was talking about with respect to ACP Agozo giving some advice on some intended demonstration.
Right. So the Attorney General, Godfrey Deboadame, was saying that the pronouncements made by ACP Agojo such that, I mean, part of the accusations were that ACP Agojo has stated that the conditions of the country were ripe for explosions or Arab Spring, if you would like. And so these were some of the things that were accused against him, and that's why they were saying that he wanted to instigate the coup, and also accusations that he had funded 2,000 cities, but it all turned out to not be true. There was some form of conditioning. He had formed a group called, there was a group called TAG, which he had been made a member. Now, from the judgment or the reports, we found out that the group had been formed, or he was told the group had been formed on the lines of democracy, and he was saying that with everything that is happening now, things are ripe, right? A lot of demonstrations could be happening, and if you look at the Arab Springs, these are some of the things that emanated, and then things blew out of proportion. And so he was questioning that, okay, this could be what is happening, and so demonstrations can be had. And the AG was saying that nobody should be encouraging these things. And that if you say these things,
I see. So that's just a background to the voice clip we just played of lawyer Martin Pebble. And thankfully, the man we're talking about is John out on the telephone. Great. Martin Pebble is a private legal practitioner and is a leader of one of three individual bondholder groups, the convener of the Kumi Preko Reloaded demonstration. Lawyer Martin Pebble, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Yes, good evening. Okay. Good. Yes, Mr. Ocansey.
And if I say that you are one of the foremost human rights lawyers in this country, you would contest that. But this is the evidence of what we're talking about. So congratulations to you, and to your client is in order for today, after a long battle with the law.
Thank you, Mr. Ocansey. Yes, I always have to, deny the accolade a bit, because they are seniors at the bar, but I also know I'm doing a little bit in my corner. Yes, thank you.
Just for the benefit of our listeners, how long has this case been running?
Well, from 2019, September, right? Yes.
So that's almost 4 years, right?
Yes, that's correct. Now, September 2019.
So is ACP Dr. Benjamin Agozo and the others, the two others who were acquitted, are they entitled to any form of compensation?
So if you've been unjustly imprisoned, okay, yes, then you are entitled to that under the Constitution. So if you are unjustly convicted, in this case, they have been acquitted, okay? In this case, they've been acquitted, but there is also another part of the law where if somebody takes you to court unjustifiable in a very frivolous case, like the one against Agojo, like this, it was a frivolous case. There was no case at all against him. The Attorney General just did this very bad case and hung it on Doc's neck. All Dr. was just that the intended demonstration they should make sure that they follow due process, go and inform the police. Okay, and he said yes, there were conditions right for the Arab Spring. So you see that this whole case against Agbojo is just a huge assault on free speech, gagging public officers. It's as if public officers cannot have any personal opinion. That's wrong. In a democracy, when you are misgoverning and people are dying, people are hungry, citizens can talk, including public officers. So you see that this particular case was just an assault on free speech, seeking to gag public officers. Yes, he's a police officer, but that means he cannot talk when there are conditions right for an Arab Spring. And he's saying that, if you look at it, what caused the Arab Spring? It was not unemployment. And Akufo-Addo himself, in 2016, that was the message he ruled on to come to power. Yes, Arab Spring. He was preaching that, hey, Ghana, the conditions are right for an Arab Spring. So when it comes, there will be jobs. You hear about Umiado sound play. There will be jobs. Yes, because they sought to what? For the Arab Spring. And that's all that the Agbojo was also talking about, that there are conditions right for an Arab Spring. So if you want to demonstrate, please, yes, this is the way to demonstrate so that government would know that, hey, things are not going well. All is not well. That's all. And they sought to gag him. That's putting fear in public officers. I see it has all failed. Everything has unraveled. And it's shown the Attorney General as a very bad Attorney General for gagging public officers. That's what the Attorney General is shown to be through this prosecution.
I see. But we're seeing as well some others who were found guilty, and we understand that they've been sentenced to death by hanging for high treason by this same court. Now, we do know that the administration of this particular punishment has not happened since 1993. How is this going to play out?
Oh, so obviously, nobody is going to hang them. It's even unthinkable, not in this day and age, not when we have shown a strong commitment towards abolition of the death penalty. Don't forget, the president has already signed into law the abolition of the death penalty for about 5-6 offenses. There are quite many: murder, subversion, smuggling of cocoa, gold, etc., piracy, and the rest. So that's the Act 1101. I hope I got the name right. 1101. Yeah, so those ones, now it's, illegal to impose a death penalty. So having done so, you would see that it will be incongruous for the state to execute these persons. And also nobody will do that, especially as they have the right to appeal to the Supreme Court, etc. So it's also, execution is out of the question. It's unthinkable. Not when President Akufo-Addo has already appended his signature to one law. Then the second one, the armed forces, the abolition of the death penalty in the armed forces, he didn't say he's opposed to it. He just said that, well, with hindsight, he doesn't think it should be abolished through a private member's bill. Remember that it's Honorable Sosu who did a private member's bill to get the first part of it abolished. And of course, it's good. You are interested in my human rights accolade.
Indeed.
I was the one who did a legal opinion on how to abolish the death penalty through this method. And so we went to see President Akufo-Addo in 2019, and then he committed to doing it. And asked the Attorney General to work on it. At that time, it was Gloria Kufu. Long story short, they didn't do it. And then later, Honorable Sosu came on board and took the opinion I did, how to go about it. And he used a private member's bill, and it worked, right? So once President Akufo-Addo has committed to abolishing the death penalty, executing them is out of the question. It's not on the table at all, not at this stage. And never. Akufo-Addo will be out of office in about 10 months. By then, the appeal will not even have been heard. So Akufo-Addo has no chance of executing these people at all. There's not even the slightest chance. We live in a country of law. He can't touch. He won't even do it. Let's just see if we are analyzing. There is a man, at least that place is done well. He's shown in terms of his rhetoric, though he couldn't walk his talk, but in terms of rhetoric, he's in favor of abolishing the death penalty. And also, at least he worked a little bit by signing the law. So having signed the law, I don't think he would be in favor of seeing these people be executed, the 6 who were convicted.
So is that it for ACP Dr. Benjamin Agozo, or he's going to explore the other option of seeking this compensation in the second analogy you gave to me not long ago?
It's called malicious prosecution. When somebody knows that you are not guilty and yet takes you through the criminal process, or somebody knows you've not committed a crime and goes to report you to the police. That's what the Attorney General has done to Agojo in this case. And then the Attorney General, he will just go down in history as very mean on this occasion, because it was always clear from day one that Agojo was not part of any coup d'etat. He had no part at all in it, and yet the Attorney General, for reasons best known to him, insisted on putting him in the case. And when the case went to court, you see how their case unraveled. It was full of grandstanding misrepresentations, etc., and the court is throwing it out.
So he's not going to press for any compensation. He's just going to go about his business.
No, that's why I said we are going to consider suing the government for malicious prosecution.
Okay.
When you know somebody is not committed a crime, and yet you prosecute the person, you take the person through the criminal justice system. It's a tort, like the way if somebody slaps you.
That's right.
And once there's no justification for the slap, you can sue. Apart from the police, like you can go to court. The police can prosecute the criminal side, but you can also still go to court in the law of torts to get compensation for the slap. Yeah. So in the same way, if somebody reports you to the police and then take you through the criminal justice system, when there's clear evidence that he always knew that you had no part in the alleged crime, when the case is done, you can sue the person. You
Right.
sue the government. This one was just bullying. Like I told you, it was just an assault on free speech. It was just to serve as a warning to police officers, military officers, and other public officers not to criticize this government. Yeah, this government, Kufuor was misgoverning. You see, from day one, he didn't know Jack. So to make sure that public officers don't find their voices, then they put Agojo on trial. So anytime you saw Agojo on trial, then you would know that, hey, these people there, if you criticize or say anything about Arab Spring, etc., they will find a case against you. So that is what that governance of intimidating, bullying the citizens and intimidating them. That's all that this trial in respect of Agojo was about.
Oya Martin Pebo, I thank you very much for joining us, and congratulations once again to you and your client.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Yes. Martin Pebo is private legal practitioner. He is the lawyer for the now acquitted ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo, together with the two others, Corporal Saidu Abubakar and also that's Colonel Samuel Kojo Gameli, Assistant Commissioner of Police. All of them were found not guilty of abetment to commit high treason. And so that is a development now. If you're just joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond, and also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. We do know what the way forward is for ACP Dr. Benjamin Agojo. His counsel, Martin Pebo, has indicated they are going to press some charges against the state. And so that's what's happened now by the judgment delivered today, which was scheduled for 22nd November 2023, after the submission of the written arguments by the involved parties. The charges dating back to April 24, 2021 involved Dr. Frederick Yao McPalm. He is deceased now, right? The late CEO of Citadel Hospital, ACP Dr. Agojo, and 8 others. The accused face various charges, including conspiracy to high treason and abetment to high treason and high treason. And Lord, I'm going to let you go on this one. The 6 who were charged with this death by hanging, which Lawyer Martin Pebo says it's not going to happen. He doesn't see President Kufuor executing this judgment.
Indeed.
What was your demeanor?
There was a lot of tension, sadness. I mean, once the judgment was done, there was pockets of shouts in the courtroom because there was a lot of shock in there, and they themselves, they just looked glum. Like, like they'd been hit with something. And of course, I mean, if you get a judgment like this, you obviously be shocked. But an observation I made, though, one of the convicts, Bright, I realized throughout the entire reading of the judgment, he was very busy on his phone, seemed to be writing out some contacts. It seems he was preparing himself, really. And the others, very sad. You could see some tears being shed even, but more importantly, their families who were with them were very, very much heartbroken. And when they were being dashed out of the courtroom, you could see that it was just an outpour of a lot of emotions, Alfred.
Lord Edwards, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us. He's our court correspondent, giving us updates of what happened in court earlier today. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also, we'll go straight to some of the stories and the happenings in court today as well. The Supreme Court has dismissed as meritorious and an application filed by Dr. Stephen Opuni invoking the inherent jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to prohibit the trial judge from handling his case. Now, Dr. Opuni, in a statement of claim, indicated that there have been persistent acts of bias on the part of the trial judge, and if the trial judge is not prohibited, he won't be fair to him. According to Dr. Opuni, the judge he purports to prohibit has already taken a position in the matter under adjudication, hence his application before the court. The former CEO of the Cocoa Board and Managing Director of Agricult Ghana Limited, a fertilizer manufacturing company, are being prosecuted for alleged involvement in procurement breaches and causing financial loss to the state in a fertilizer deal. Dr. Opuni explained that on July 25, 2023, the High Court adopted the proceedings and those proceedings weren't made available to his legal team. He contends that he doesn't know the content of the day's proceedings except a document that was waived by the judge. So the Chief State Attorney, Evelyn Kilson, opposed the application. She said the application has not been able to raise any credible issues of bias. According to her, in furtherance, the state also indicated that the judge gave directives to all the parties to apply for the proceedings. Essentially, what's happened today is that the panel of 5 justices, presided over by Justice Gabriel Palman, said they have read the processes filed and listened to both lawyers, and they are not convinced that the trial judge exhibited any bias. So that is on the basis of that, they dismissed the application for prohibition by Dr. Stephen Opuni's lawyers. So this is another case that we're following quite closely and how things play out in court. Now, the Upper East Regional Security Council has met the feuding factions in the Boko conflict as part of attempts to resolve the age-old conflict there. The meeting comes in the wake of the recent violent attacks that have resulted in at least 13 deaths and injuries to several others. The renewed violence has heightened insecurity as more workers leave the area. A man in the Upper East region, Senyala Castro, has been monitoring the meeting. He joined me on the telephone for a quick detail on this. Castro, has this meeting ended as yet?
Yes, Alfred, the meeting has ended, and the RESEC says it's going to do everything within its means to ensure that, number one, the conflict there in Boko is resolved, and then secondly, it hasn't spread into the other parts of the region, especially Bolgatanga, where we have recorded some few disturbing incidents. The RESEC is particularly very worried about the fact that the conflict has taken a different trajectory, which is spreading into areas which do not in any way have relations with the conflict. It also condemned the killing of the deputy registrar of the Bolgatanga Tenka University, describing the attack and the killing as something that would not be entertained. The RESEC says that the issue is being investigated and calls on residents to remain calm, especially residents within the Bolgatanga municipality, the Bolgatanga East municipality, and other areas close to Boko municipality.
I see, but how in terms of representation, did you see any of the leaders of both factions, the Mamprosis and Kosasis, in this meeting that you indicated just ended?
Not really, Alfred. This meeting was basically, held, or it has in attendance the RESEC, the chief security officers within the region at the regional level, and then that of the MUSEC and DISEC level. We had people, representation from the Boko municipality in the presence of the MC and his entourage. We also have representation from Binduri and some of the other areas where some of these attacks have been recorded. And it was led by the chairman of the RESEC, who is in the person of the Upper East Regional Minister, Stephen Yakubu, and all that. There were no persons from, and that has always been the case with regional, security meetings like this regarding Boko. Hardly do you see representatives from the student factions in attendance.
And you've been monitoring the happenings in the area itself. Now, this is, as we speak, the curfew has just started, 5 p.m. But what's been happening there after the recent violence in the nearby town of Binduri?
Yes, so Alfred, there hasn't been much as far as the Boko incident is concerned in the past few hours. I can say in the past 43 hours. We haven't really heard anything except for the fact that we are just getting information from the Interior Ministry about the review. This time round, it is the review of the curfew hours within the Boko area. This time round, the review it appears to be extending to some environs within the Boko municipality, areas like Sabungari and the rest, which usually are where this whole incident sparked from. That is the latest.
And so, but going forward, from what you have monitored, what's going to be the next meeting after this today?
Alfred, usually when the RESEC hold meetings like this, the next thing is to see how best they can go meet leadership of the two tribes which have locked horns in a chieftaincy dispute. Usually, the regional minister, who is the head of the DISEC in the region, would lead other very key members, including the National Peace Council, and then some other top respected people within the Upper East region to call on these two factions and to try to see how best they can let them understand that it is better to use dialogue than to pick up arms and then engage in fights. But we are keeping our fingers crossed, and we would see what is going to come up in the coming days. But it's most likely that the RESEC would be visiting Boko area to try to speak to leadership of the two freedom factions to see how best they can put down their arms and then go back into the negotiating table to see how best they can resolve this issue.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Kaso Sinyala is a reporter on the ground in the Upper East region monitoring the situation there. We just got a statement from the Minister for the Interior, Ambrose Derry, and it reads, the Minister for the Interior has, on the advice of the Upper East Regional Security Council and by the executive instrument, reviewed the curfew hours for Boko Municipality and its environs in the Upper East region from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that's the development now. This meeting that just ended, this is one of the issues they have resolved to do going forward, reviewing the curfew hours from 5 p.m., that's from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. effective Thursday, January 25, 2024. Government calls on the chiefs, elders, opinion leaders, youth, and people of the area to exercise restraint in the face of the challenges confronting them, as well as to use non-violent means to channel their energies into ensuring peace. Meanwhile, there's a total ban on all persons in the Boko municipality and its environs from carrying arms and ammunition or any offensive weapon, and any persons found with any arms or ammunition will be arrested and prosecuted. This is a statement that came through right now from the Minister for the Interior, Ambrose Derry, reviewing the curfew hours. Adib Sani is a security analyst. He's been monitoring the situation in Boko quite closely. He's joining us. Adib, thank you so much for joining us here on Hot Edition. So that's what we have now. After this meeting today by the Regional Security Council, this is what they've resolved to review upon advice, the curfew hours from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. How much of an impact will this have?
Well, obviously, curfews don't happen, in a vacuum. It should be based on certain indicators on the ground. An assessment definitely is done in collaboration with the various security agencies on the ground. And based on that, the District Security Council would make recommendations to the Regional Security Council, which would recommend to Accra the next line of action. And I think that is what has prompted the Interior Ministry to review the curfew. Surely, I'm just coming out of a meeting, and it was about Buku. The situation has escalated, unfortunately. It is spreading to other parts of the country. The conflict has metamorphosed in its character and its lethality, and we are now having more mortality on the ground. And the mortality is not just constricted to either Mafritis or Kusansis, the so-called neutrals, including the Gumbes, Ashantis, Bisanges, Mushis, Fulanis, are all getting caught up in the crossfire. As a result, it's only proper that in order to end the belligerence, the wanton disregard for law and order, the firing unabated of high-powered rifles in the area, something needed to be done. And I think that is why they have decided to review the curfew. But with curfew or not, Alfred, the firing still continues. I mean, the last time, just a few days ago, I was in the north. Someone called me from Buku during curfew hours. He said, I want you to listen to a new song. I was like, what song it is? Is it? Then I could hear sounds of gunfire and all over the place. I asked him, where's the military? Where's the police? He was like, nobody knows. Meanwhile, it was curfew hours. So for anyone to think that curfew is going to stop completely the belligerence, the person would have to rethink, because a lot of the killings in the area, a lot of the attacks happened during the curfew hours. So in some cases, the curfew even gives them the opportunity to engage in some of these actions.
Adib, I thank you so much for your thoughts on this. Appreciate you.
Yes, man.
Adib Sani is a security analyst joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. Also on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Now, the National Labour Commission has instructed striking members of the Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana, the Federation of Universities Senior Staff and Teachers and Education Workers Union to call off their strike before any negotiations with the employer could go ahead. Now, this follows a marathon meeting called at the instance of the National Labour Commission. The unions withdrew their services over pensions and conditions of service. The industrial action has affected administrative and other duties across the 16 public universities, as well as university basic schools and health facilities. Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, Officer Sama, spoke to 3FM after the meeting.
The commission met with them today, and there were 3 issues which they had brought with them. Did anybody know? The commission met with them on the issues they had brought before the commission and upon which they were basing their strike. Appearing before the commission, in their opening statement, they said that the first one has been resolved, and that the directive from GTEC, right, in respect of their allowances, has been withdrawn or has been suspended, pending further negotiation and discussion with them. So that one has been solved by way of suspension. In any case, before then, UMAT and UCC were not paying what they ought to pay, and then the commission has directed that the director of tertiary education, who represented GTEC, should make sure that the anomaly is corrected. That one, so the issue of the allowances is being resolved. Now, the second was their tier 2 pensions. That one too, the government side admits that yes, they are in default and it's being paid. Actually, part has been paid and they are paying it. Now, what was in issue was the payment of the interest, which the law says that it should be 3%, right, cumulative. That one to the government side is not denying. However, they were demanding that it be paid immediately before the call of the strike. Of course, the representatives of government did not bring the money here to pay immediately. So they said they wanted to meet them and then arrange a payment plan. And that the minister was going to meet them on the 7th of February. which the unions rejected that it was too long a time. They could not wait. After all, the monies have been deducted. You have admitted that you are in default of payment. And when it comes to interest, the law is setting on it. So what was there to discuss? But the commission was of the opinion that, yes, the person owes you, and he says, come. So listen, after all, by the time you get there, they say, oh, this is your money. So first go and listen.
Well, so that's Executive Secretary of the National Labour Commission, that's Ofuswa there. Thankfully, we have Isaac Donko, who is the National Chairman of the Senior Staff Association of the Universities, the public universities in this country, 16 of them. He was at the said meeting earlier today. Mr. Donko, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
The pleasure is mine. Good evening, my brother.
Great. It's always good to have you. Now, so what was the resolution on the meeting with the government on the arrears of your Tier 2 pensions?
For government, we are here to meet them. We are here to meet them officially too.
So, yes, I heard the National Labour Commission Executive Secretary, what we just played, indicating that government wanted to meet you to discuss a payment plan for the arrears they owe you on the Tier 2. Was there any decision taken in that regard?
Yeah, they've written to us that they want to meet us on the 1st of February, 2024.
1st February?
Yes.
Okay, and that is to discuss the payment plan?
To discuss the issues surrounding the Tier 2, non-payment of Tier 2, being its principal, or the arrest, or the interest, or the penalties.
But have some payments started coming through? We understand the National Labour Commission is saying government has started making some payments of the Tier 2 arrears that they owe you.
Yeah, before you got there, I think they paid that of April, they paid that of March, yes.
I see.
So, yes.
So
but they paid without interest
they
or
pay
penalty.
Without interest or penalty. That's the 3% that he talked about.
Yes.
And that government did not deny that they owe you that 3% interest.
They didn't.
Okay. So the issue which is in contention is the conditions of service. That's why the Labour Commission wants you to call off the strike before you can even negotiate, correct?
No, we don't. We are not discussing conditions of service. The conditions of service, we just submitted our proposal. We were supposed to engage on Monday last week to start our negotiation of service. When it got there, they said we were on strike, so they couldn't have engaged us. So they couldn't discuss anything with us in relation to our conditions of service. So we are not discussing conditions of service at the moment. What we are saying is that our already agreed upon conditions of service, in which overtime was one of the items discussed and agreed, has been breached or altered by government. So they should bring it back. That is what we are. And now they have a letter. They've got a letter cancelling or suspending that I think last year in November. GTEC has written another letter suspending that earlier decision that the overtime, the existing agreement should continue.
I see. So now, going forward, are you going to call off the strike, or you continue till whatever time that the resolution is reached as to when your payment will be made?
Yes, to call or to not call off the strike, it doesn't lie in my bosom as a national chairman. It lies in the umbrella of the NEC members, the entire NEC. So as early as possible, we are going to call for emergency next meeting and review the directive. We are yet to officially receive the directive from Labour Commission. Today they said it, but this is not official. So maybe by tomorrow the official document will be out. Then we table it before NEC, and a decision will be made.
See, Zadonko, we'll wait for that, and we'll also be following up to see how things play out. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Isaac Donko is National Chairman of the Senior Staff Association of the Universities of Ghana, joining us here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. But before we go into business, more than 3 million women voluntarily opted for cesarean birth in the country, according to the Ghana Health Service and Demographic Survey 2022. Cesarean section is a surgical delivery of a baby through the abdomen and uterus. often considered a life-saving intervention in pregnancy complications or difficult labor. With more women voluntarily opting for it, it also brings up a different trend. Some Ghanaian women have been reacting to the survey and reason why they opt for the cesarean rather than the normal birth.
Yeah, I would prefer the normal childbirth because the operation is risky. Anything can happen. You see that you lose the child, the mother, anything can happen. I would prefer the norm. Even with the natural birth, it's painful. I've heard that it's painful and stuff, but I would prefer that one. Yes. Yeah. I don't want operation. No, I don't want them to cut my stomach. No. I don't want it gives mark and stuff. No, I don't want it.
No, I don't want CS. Yeah. Oh, because the painful aspect cry is not easy that much, because even the 3 months where you will go cry is not easy. Because for me, I don't like it. Yeah, I don't really like the CS. I like the normal birth. I like the normal way we give birth and stuff.
So you had some women there sharing their thoughts on this. But right after this quick break, we're going to the world of business. Michael Ogbodo is standing by already here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Remember, we're streaming live on Facebook at 3FM 927.
If you dare to have your thoughts, if you're unafraid of being expressive, do you long for a space where your mind can roam free? Tune in every Thursday from 9 p.m. on 3FM 92.7, Uncensored with Stephanie Benson, where the night is as limitless as your imagination.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the business segment here on Hot Edition. Coming up this evening, burst fee for fuel transporters sparks controversy as Importers Association of Ghana calls it illegal. I am Michael Ogbodo. I'll bring you details of this and more shortly. Please stay with us. Well, thank you for staying. Straight into our top story now. The Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, Samson Asaki Awingobet, has ignited a debate by calling the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company Limited BOST recent fee for fuel transporters illegal. In a letter dated December 20, 2023, BOST requested that the Tanker Owners Union pay 50,000 cedis for the first 10 tankers per transporter and 5,000 cedis for each additional tanker. Awingobet contends that the fee is unlawful and has urged the National Petroleum Authority (NPA) to intervene and prevent BOST from carrying out the directive.
A transporter cannot go and pay money to NPA. That's the authority to satisfy you to do business with, to carry petroleum product in this country. Then an institution that was established to do a storage for the country so that in case there's certain emergencies, we have some fuel for the country. That's the work of the BOST. So if BOST has a load at all, that's supposed to be load taken by a transport owner to transport it to BOST, maybe Yape or Kumasi or the Aflao or whatever. Why would you say they should pay that amount of money, 50,000 Ghana cedis, for first 10 trucks with BOST? I strongly believe that this is not the best. If MPA doesn't stop it, tomorrow there will be repercussions. Other companies that also contract transport owners to lift their product for them will also say, if you want to do business with me, yes, you have the trucks. I am going to give the business. For that matter, you must register with me and pay some money. After paying money to the legalize the right institution, which is the MPA.
Samson Asakia Wingobit is the Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana. Now, a resident fellow at the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Leslie Mensah, is optimistic government's 2024 borrowings will be lower than expected. His optimism arises from the $300 million budgetary support from the World Bank. He believes the Bretton Woods institution funds will provide some relief for the government.
So by securing this deal with the bilateral creditors, the government has been able to concretize the expected debt relief on those debts, and therefore in 2024, for instance, it will not have to pay a couple of $100 million on those debts. Okay, that also means that the borrowing requirements of the government for 2024, for example, would be lower than the 2024 budget anticipated, because at the time the budget was crafted, the deal had not been reached, and so it was assumed that those payments would be made. Now that those transfers would not be made, the borrowing requirement of the government for 2024 to finance the budget gap would be lower. So this would provide significant fiscal breathing room.
So that was resident fellow at the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Leslie Mensah, speaking there. Away from that, the IC Research, a research firm, is predicting that inflation will decline to 22.4% in January 2024. In its recent report, the research institution attributed the expected decline to improved forex outturn from December 2023 through to January 2024. There is more in the following report.
The report forecasts a marginal rate of decline in inflation in 2024 compared to the significant decline seen in 2023. According to IC Research, year-on-year inflation will fall to 22.4% in January 2024 due to a number of factors, including stable domestic energy prices during the January 2024 Consumer Price Index window relative to the same period in 2023, and sustained control of price pressures as a result of improved forex turnout. Additionally, the research firm expects the delayed impact of the lower electricity tariff implemented last month to sustain the disinflation in January 2024. However, with the expected introduction of VAT on residential use of electricity for above lifeline consumers, which was to take effect from January 1, coupled with the new taxes in the 2024 budget, the research firm believes that the pace of disinflation will weaken in early 2024 and likely influence the Bank of Ghana in its policy rate decision.
Well, that'll be all for the business segment here on Hot Edition. For more business stories, please visit our website, 3news.com. I am Michael Obudu. Thank you for listening. As always, please stay safe. Up next is sports, and Billy is on standby.
And Ghana is in search for another Black Stars coach, and this is going to be what? The seventh coach, I understand, in the last 5 years?
Yeah, so since Keto Kweku took over, it's been, 5 coaches in 5 years. 4 of them were appointed by himself. Yeah, and so 4 coaches in just a space or a time span of 5 years.
That's concerning.
It is very, very, very,
So
very
you
concerning.
do an average of just a little over a year for each coach.
Yeah, and an average of 10.7 matches per coach.
But is it just about the coaches and the players? Are they the only ones to blame for what is happening to the Black Stars?
For me, it's deeper. I mean, yes, coaches and their tactics are very important. And if you don't win, the coach will be the first to fall. Also, the players, the commitment levels that they are supposed to show in tournaments is not at the best level. It's not at the level that you appreciate for the kind of history, the kind of culture that the Black Stars possess, and the kind of trophies that the team has won in the years. And the whole structure, the GFA, the kind of structure in building teams, youth teams, it's problematic. And so all of that has led to this point where we can say that the Black Stars is not at the level where it used to be. From 2008 to 2017, the Black Stars were consistently in a semi-final of an AFCON. Now, the Black Stars are getting knocked out of group stages. This is the first time the Black Stars have actually been knocked out of a group stage back to back in an AFCON. It's so shambolic. We've gotten to that point.
So I see a number of suggestions online.
Yeah.
Kweto Kreko is trending.
Yeah.
After Chris Hughton.
Yeah.
So do you subscribe to that call that the GFA itself needs some house cleaning, not just the coach and the players?
Yeah, I believe so. But it's difficult to knock the GFA out, because if the government decide to try that, they would face the wrath of FIFA, because FIFA regulations, do not allow that. And even if that happens, they will suspend the whole country from performing or from participating in football activities that has a FIFA tag.
For how many years?
The years will be determined by them, but it will basically be at least 2 years.
Because I've heard some people with that school of thought that, let's do this, get banned, and then we do our homework well. So if it's 2 years, you have that 2 years to prepare and correct all the mistakes, and then come back after 2 years much better. Is that one that you give thought to?
Yeah. I mean, I've given thought to, but the problem with that is you would stifle progress of some of the youth players that you would expect to pass through the system within those 2 year period, because a lot of youth players come through, the ranks and then try and represent the country in competitions. And it is important that they have enough time to play football, enough minutes so that they can make a case, make claims, to even get moves outside, because you'll be stifling progress of a lot of youth players, and that wouldn't bode well for the country and, for the Black Stars in the future.
I see. So going forward, just quickly, what would be your recommendation? I mean, and I'm sure you've been having this conversation together with your colleagues about, if the GFA is part of the problem, what has to be done?
Yeah, I mean, first off, the GFA has to be cleaned out, definitely. If the leaders are balls, they probably should resign and let other people step up.
That's not going to happen.
That's the difficult thing. That's the difficult thing. Yeah, unless they are forced out, and
So Chris Hughton was just a very easy target.
Yeah, very. I mean, it wasn't. It was even clear, even before his appointment, that the GFA didn't want him in the job. And getting to the end of his tenure, I mean, there were reports coming out that even the GFA president wasn't speaking to him directly. So that relationship was already broken, even ahead of the AFCON. So it's not surprising. I think there should be a clean out there. And if you'd want to get a local coach in, equip them, because a lot of local coaches that are in Ghana are not well equipped. Now, the kind of level they have to attain when it comes to certificates will be the UEFA Pro license. We don't have many Ghanaians who have a UEFA Pro license. A lot of them have CAF license A, which is not at that higher level. And so that has to be solved first. And you need to have youth systems that help the youth to perform and play well and get to a point where they can progress into the senior national team, and we are assured that they can perform. That is what Senegal did. They had a very good youth system. They had a coach they can trust, and a coach that they built to that capacity. So you have to have that too.
I see. And you posted something about the possible replacement for Chris Hughton.
Yeah.
I see Javier Renard there, and a number of people are tipping Javier Renard to replace him, because he was at the stadium. Javier Renard watched our first game against Cape Verde.
Yeah.
And do you see any indication of He giving it a thought?
I mean, he has that, affinity for Ghana, first of all. He was one of the assistant coaches for the Black Stars in the 2008 AFCON. He was there. And he has that experience in the African terrain. He won the AFCON in 2012 with Zambia and won it again in 2015 with Ivory Coast. So he has that experience in African football. The only problem now is he manages the French women's national team. And so you need to, shell out a lot of money to try and get someone like him in because of the kind of experience he has.
Bill, thank you. Thank you very much for coming through. Bill Eshenis with the 3 Sports team. Ends it here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. There's more news on 3news.com. On behalf of the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. Join me at 10 p.m. on TV3 for Ghana Tonight. I am Alfred Ocansey. Have a great evening.